Another thing that's quite interesting is the biology of human beings. The biology of human beings is always, everything is interpreted. The information that's coming into a human being through sight, smell, sound, touch, whatever, it's absorbed through biological perception, and possibly, who knows how energetic, intelligent awareness can communicate without these senses. There seems to be something else going on as well with interaction that we can't really quantify. So extrasensory perception, say there is maybe psychic abilities, synchronicities, bizarre synchronicities that happen, which seem like life answering itself. And yet, so just those don't really they get interpreted in a dream-like mental capacity. The mind is always interpreting everything, and it's like a dream. The way it interprets things, whether they be sensory inputs through the sights and the sounds, whatever, those get interpreted through the brain, and it's not truly what's happening. It's just the perception senses are interpreting it, and then the mind is creating an idea of what's happening from those stimulations, those perceptions, those senses. And then, so all of this is being interpreted in the brain, and it references everything to what it's experienced and what it thinks it is. It fills in the gaps. This is all happening instantaneously almost with the human interpretation of what's happening in life. So that's just what's seen as raw sensory data is interpreted through the brain and becomes a story or an interpretation, an idea, a viewpoint, or a dreamlike interpretation of what's happening in front of it, in the world. And then, of course, there's the complexity of those interpretations, which is to do with how people are thinking, and those people there's all these stories that get intermingled with all of that, which is fascinating how the mind does it. It's almost like everything is kind of created in perception and thought, and it's as real as a dream. A dream feels exactly the same. It's just like a projected idea of what's happening in front of it. So all perception is interpreted through the mind, through the brain. It's cross-referenced with memories and the life experience, probably genetically inherited interpretation, instinct, DNA interpretation, as well as whatever's happened in that human being's lifetime, is all cross-referenced instantaneously. The beautiful, complex brain doing all of this. Raw perception comes in through sight or sound or whatever senses being interpreted, mostly through sight and sound. And the brain interprets that, cross-references it, creates an image out of it with a story of what that is and how that works, and are you safe, and is this good or bad? And it creates this mental story about what it's seeing. It's been proven that people look around a room and they just have to, they don't actually look at the whole room. They look at parts of the room and fill in the pieces. So all of that is like a dream. That's the way the brain, the human being is so efficient in how it functions. But actually, most of it is mental construct. Most of it is creative thought, just like a dream. It's, we tend to hear that and go, oh, no, dreams aren't real. But what's happening in front of me, when I'm awake is real. That's real. A dream isn't real. I'm not saying one's real or unreal. I'm saying whatever the appearance is in the thoughts is very similar. One's raw interaction in the waking state, and one is mental construction in the sleep state. But the end result is very similar interpretation of what it's seeing and what it's experiencing. And most of it is being drawn upon by cross-referencing with memories and thoughts, creative thought. So perceptions are basically an illusion. there can be a common illusion that everyone sees. Maybe people don't see things the same way anyway, but there seems to be a commonality to the color red, or a bright light and a dark thing, because the body, the senses tend to function similarly with human beings. But what we actually interpret it as is very complexly cross-referenced through every interaction that's happened, inherited, with a genetic DNA inheritance, instinct, and life experience. So two separate people probably don't see things exactly the same way, and certainly mentally wouldn't interpret them the same way, because the complexity of their mental interaction, their interaction in the world, will be unique in every human being. There is just a commonality to the way the senses interpret, and then we communicate it through words, and we sort of cross-reference it with ideas. But all of that stuff is illusory. Something's happening. Something is definitely happening. Two individuals side by side will see something happen and react to it the same way, the same instant. So something is happening, but it's not what is seen. It's not the same as what is seen. It doesn't really matter to make the point that it's not exactly the same, but it just sort of loosens up something to say, if it's not exactly like that, perhaps there can be a loosening of that interpretation, because it might loosen up the reality of, say, here and there. If this is all perception and interpretation, then maybe just suspend disbelief. Just maybe keep an open mind. That's what it's pointing towards.